Hello and welcome back to the Planning Pulse podcast. My name is Matt Harvison. With me, as always, is my good friend and senior solution strategist, Beau Mellon. Beau, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Matt. I'm doing great. I'm excited for another episode of the pod. We're rolling on these, so let's go.
Yeah, excited to be here. Today, we are wrapping up our three-part mini series, What is an Enterprise Performance Management Tool? The first two series, if you haven't had an opportunity to watch that, I recommend you go back and start with those. We started out with defining really what is an enterprise performance management solution. We then got into who is Workday Adaptive Planning. Today, we're going to be hitting on why Workday Adaptive Planning. I know we've brought along Rob Phipps with us today, who has conversations with prospects and customers alike on a daily basis, really pitching the value that our customers find with Workday Adaptive Planning. So, Rob, excited to have you on the podcast with us today. How are you doing today?
I'm good, trying to stay warm and glad to be on the podcast. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we couldn't do a series on enterprise performance management tools and competitors out there without bringing Rob in. He's one of the foremost experts in a lot of the EPM landscape that's out there today. So, really glad he was able to join us. So, really, I just want to dive into it. There are a lot of EPM tools that exist out in the ecosystem. There are some that are extremely lightweight, that are essentially add-ins inside of Excel. There are some that are extremely heavy that take 18, 24 months to roll out. They take a lot of different experts to be able to administer those systems. We believe that Workday Adaptive Planning is the best solution that is out there. That's why we are platinum level solution providers of Workday Adaptive Planning. And Rob, I know that you have these conversations with customers on a daily basis. Really, when you think about pitching the value that Adaptive can bring in comparison to some other tools, where are some of the places that you start in those conversations?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to pull up just a couple slides just to really walk through that. And I think it really is like the quick time to value for these customers, right? You mentioned some of the heavyweight planning solutions taking, two over almost 2 years to stand up, very IT driven. But with adaptive, there's quick time to value within the solution, right? We can customize deployment options to be really delivered in 12 weeks with faster go live options available. So I've shared this slide of really why do 6,600 people run Workday Adaptive Planning, and not going to walk through each kind of bullet point that's listed here, but want to touch on a few of the benefits. So, it's really built for finance and by finance, right? So there's no need for a center of excellence. A lot of solutions out there require that center of excellence model builder to really be at the core of it. It's built for finance, managed by finance, in finance as an administrator, right? From a support perspective, given that you've got over 6,600 customers on the platform, we have the largest customer base and community base within the planning ecosystem. So very active community, sharing tips, tricks, best practices, and really allows for the continuous innovation within the platform. Um,
And I think that's a good point there too, is with 6,600, customers of Adaptive, like you said, tips and tricks made by finance for finance, you're really meant to be a self-service tool. So if you want to continue growing, you want to continue expanding, that's something that you will have access to the community, be able to ask those questions. How do we continue to grow the tool? So I think that's really important there too, because you think about some tools that are out there, maybe only have, a couple hundred customers, if that. There's really not an expanded network to reach out to for help for. So I think that's an important one. That's a good call out there too, Rob. Beau, anything on the list that immediately jumps out at you besides, thinking of like the Workday community, anything at all?
Yeah, my eyes immediately go to the bottom right here when we think about ownership. It's a tool that, like Rob kind of hit on, it's supposed to be owned by, your internal planning team. And one of the things that's not on here, but I think is a very material reason of why people go with adaptive and why people that maybe never have before that should hear that I find is interesting is a lot of the buyers are actually people that are returning customers, people that implemented it at one company and they thought, wow, that gave us so much value and it was something that we leveraged every single day. And maybe they move on to another venture, they get promoted and they're at a new department at a new firm. They come back and convince their new team, hey, we need adaptive too. I think that alone, seeing how many repeat customers of adaptive and repeat implementations with active cyber we've seen is such a good, call out in terms of why we should choose adaptive. We see that time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, so last thing I was gonna say, just kind of on this too, is just like, have like you mentioned, Bo, people kind of like this boomerang customers are then coming back around, right? Maybe they started in finance, right? And they're looking to expand into workforce planning or maybe a bottoms up sales approach. There's a lot of different avenues we can really take it from a long-term ownership perspective within Adaptive. So it's all really built to help you, make decisions faster, as we've kind of shown here. So next one I wanted to cover, Matt, was just really to talk about, us versus the competition, right? You can kind of see here we've got work down the left and lightweight and heavyweight planning solutions kind of on the right here. But these lightweight planning systems, just want to cover a few of them, right? So we've got the Venas, the data rails, the cubes out there. Typically, they're going to be Excel focused with macros, providing untrustworthy results from Excel challenges that teams are dealing with on a daily basis, right? These models are oftenly cheaper priced, but they box you into these pre-built templates that we consistently find when Bo and myself are talking to folks that might even have some of these solutions that they're not just serving their needs today. Anything you want to
Yeah.
add on that?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. When you start to think about these tools, sometimes they're even like, industry specific where they give you 3 or 4 models and there's no build on, on top of that you can do. So like you said, boxing you in just because it is, the lower cost solution, it can seem appealing because, you think of financial planning and how are we going to save costs. But ultimately, that turns into a lot of shelfware for folks because it's really not truly a usable, it's not going to be able to generate some of the reports that you wanted to do. So, completely agree with you when you say box them in. On the heavier planning side, let's talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so when I think about the heavy planning systems, right, I think about the Oracles, the IBMs, SAPs, the Anaplans, right? And a lot of these are slow to calculate, right, from a performance standpoint. But not only on top of that, they've got a heavy IT maintenance, right? It's very almost like building with concrete, right? Like it kind of box you in and modularize you in as well. And with adaptive, it's more like building with Legos, across a use case chain. So these can be, typically very expensive and require a lot more maintenance on that front.
Yeah, and you say expensive, and some part of that expense is unforeseen costs, right? I know we handle a lot of customers who are coming to us that want to evaluate adaptive because the product that they're in now slapped them with a bill for, you know, more memory, more versions, more data storage. So it's not just the price that they paid up front, it's continual costs that are unforeseen. So think about planning, using your planning tool to plan for the cost of your planning tool and not knowing what that number is going to be. So I know that's something that we hear a lot too. But on the heavy planning side, a lot of the things that we hear is adaptive, as a self-service tool. With the heavier planning tools, you have to have some experts come in. Anything else sort of jumping off the page at you? Like what is the true differentiator between some of those heavy planning tools and adaptive?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's on the formula writing side, right? It's not scripting, it's not coding. If you know how to write an Excel formula, you'll be able to understand and know how to write a formula inside of Adaptive. The back end logic works the same way. And then when we want to go ahead and output all of the forecasts and the calcs from those models into a report or into a dashboard, it's all dragging and dropping functionality. It's easy to use in the long run. It just goes back to the self-service and maintenance aspect of the tool. Really easy to own and maintain in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rob, thanks for hopping on with us today and showing us a few slides. As we start to think about what Workday Adaptive Planning can do for you as an organization, and maybe some, a demonstration is in your future of Workday Adaptive Planning, we like to point out some of those differentiators in the podcast series that we've got, where we're just going in and maybe showing some lightweight examples of here's what Adaptive can do for you. I don't know if Bo, maybe you have an instance that you'd like to pull open,
Yeah,
so just take a
yeah.
look at a few of those things.
100%. Let's do it. So one of the big ones, right, is thinking about data that you can have inside of your organization and what are your limitations there. So to kind of showcase this, I jumped on into Adaptive and we're sitting inside of an income statement right now. And when I go ahead and zoom on up to my top, you see we're sitting inside of my working budget. When I go ahead and collapse this though, you can see we have a lot of different iterations of our planning process. Do we want to take a look at our actuals? Do you want to take a look at our tops down, our bottoms up planning? We got a lot of different versions inside of our bottoms up folder. Maybe we want to do some what if scenario analysis, some intelligent planning. Maybe we want to compare FX rates, right? Adaptive is not going to limit you in terms of storage and capabilities from how many different iterations of our forecast do we want to be able to have. You can have as many as you want inside of a Workday Adaptive Planning, and Workday is never going to charge you for more storage. Big differentiator of Adaptive.
Unlimited version capabilities for sure.
Yep. A big one. Another one that I want to go ahead and jump to and hit on is the integration side. And inside of Adaptive, we can go ahead and integrate to absolutely any tool, whether that's an HRIS, an ERP, a CRM, a SQL Server, a data warehouse. We can connect to anything inside of Adaptive and bring it in on a scheduled cadence. Now, some other systems too, they have integration and they have ETL functionality, but Workday is never going to charge you a hosting fee. You can bring in also unlimited integrations. So you can see here up at the top, this is a demo environment, but we have a lot of different source systems that we're connected to. We have customers today that have like 7 or 8 different active integrations. And that's not another charge or another fee that you're having to tack on for integration maintenance, or here's another, X dollars added to your subscription for bringing in another source system, right? We can connect to anything whenever you want with no additional cost from a subscription standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a really big feature, just like you mentioned, ERPs, HRIS systems. If you're bringing personnel data in, if you're bringing sales data in, if you're bringing anything from a data warehouse, we can connect to it through Workday Adaptive Planning.
100%. One other one I want to hit on really quickly is dashboarding. Now, the dashboarding inside of Adaptive, I really do think is a great differentiator in the fact that it's easy to use. And it's, like I said earlier, it's drag and drop. But what's great about it is what we like to call active dashboarding, where I actually bring in the model that's driving my KPIs up above. So instead of a Power BI or a Tableau, certainly we can bring in dashboards and charts and KPIs and analytics. But inside of Adaptive, I have the functionality to be able to plan directly inside of my model and see the changes get made. So say if this new hire left the organization at the end of 2024 and our KPI is looking at January 2025, I have the ability to go ahead and update my model, save that change, and then see my headcount update, see my salary per FTE update. Everything will go ahead and flow through for me. And then maybe I want to drill into it pretty quickly and easily, right? I have that feature and functionality really quickly and easily inside of our active dashboards here. And we can schedule these out and send them to everybody. Another really nice piece of Adaptive here.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it's a little bit different than your typical BI tool because you can't drill down into the information. You can't plan at the same time. So when you have this up and you're in your board meeting and someone says, what's the makeup of the salary expense like you did by function, you don't have to go run another report. You just click into it and it lets you know automatically.
That's right.
So the drill down functionality is just incredibly robust. And you don't get that with a lot of the BI solutions that are out there today. So anything else inside the tool that you wanted to share, Beau?
I've got one more, Matt. So companies come to us, right, and they're familiar with doing their reporting inside of Excel, PowerPoint, or Word. Well, inside of Adaptive, right, if you see my cursor up here, I'm hovering over Office Connect. Office Connect is a feature Adaptive customers absolutely love. We've even seen people purchase Adaptive strictly for the Office Connect reporting functionality. Such a nice feature of Adaptive to be able to bring in all your actuals data and all your budget data, referencing your model. You can see right now we're pinning this to March of 2024. Maybe I go ahead and, I close April out and I want to move it forward. I click OK. I update my date. I refresh my report. And now we don't have to go in and make a new report, right? We see now it's November through April and comparing everything there. This is all drag and drop functionality as well, right? Maybe I want to go ahead and bring in accounts for this area of my planning. I just highlight them. I go find those accounts. I drag them. I drop them. I refresh my report. And then we're going to go ahead and see data come in there too, right? And we can quickly spin these up for the entire organization, take them to a PowerPoint deck, take them to a Word doc. A lot of customers, some other vendors also out there have Excel add-ins, but Office Connect is something Adaptive continually reinvests in and has a lot of pride in. And all of our Adaptive customers say that they love Office Connect, and it's another really nice feature for reporting inside of Adaptive. That's another differentiator.
Yeah. Yeah. And really appreciate you walking through, Office Connect. You mentioned the reinvestment from Workday is really one of the biggest differentiators as well. When you think of, the EPM landscape, there are newcomers into the space almost on a daily basis. It feels like sometimes we're running into competitors that we've never even heard of sometimes, and sometimes they've got less than 100 customers. Workday Adaptive Planning has really stood the test of time. 6,600 customers speaks for itself, but there is that continuous support and reinvestment from a company the size of Workday. There's continued R&D money that gets put into how can we make a tool like Workday Adaptive Planning better for our customers. So you've got the backing of a big organization, you've got a self-service tool, you've got open integrations to be able to connect to any of the source systems that are out there with comfortable reporting functionality that's available through the Microsoft Office suite add-ins that we've got. A lot of different features that exist inside of Adaptive that you're not going to get at some of those lightweight competitors that are out there, as well as the ability to use it, get your hands on it, be that owner of your instance that you're not going to get with some of the heavier ones. So slots in right, nice and neatly in between the lightweight as well as the heavyweight competitors that are out there, with that backing from Workday again. So Rob, appreciate you hopping on. Any final thoughts before we end the third of our 3-part mini series?
No, I'm good. I appreciate y'all giving me some time today.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for hopping on. Beau, any final thoughts for anyone?
No, I thought that was a good overview. I guess I'll close with this in the terms of I tell our customers all the time in vendor evaluation, if you only ever want to have to go through this and do this once, right? Adaptive is a great tool for that. It can be more expensive in the long run if we're, changing vendors every couple of years, and Adaptive is going to grow and scale with you.
Absolutely. No, I like that too. And, if you want to do this one time and you want to continue to scale, grow, learn how to do it on your own, really reduce costs from a long-term perspective, Worked Adaptive Planning is the way to go. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about what an EPM tool is, where does Active Cyber and Workday Adaptive Planning sort of fit into that ecosystem of EPM tools. If you're not familiar with our Planning Pulse podcast, be sure to check out our YouTube channel where we've got videos over everything there is to do with Workday Adaptive Planning, from foundational basics to expanded use cases. And be sure to like and subscribe for future content as well. We will be creating more podcasts to serve our customers and prospects alike. You can plan on it.